This is Randolph Macias with the Uncensored Voice. Welcome back to the show. Today I have the Honorable Peter Sakai, who has served on the 225th District Court bench since November 2006 and has been re-elected unopposed until his decision to run for Bexar County Judge after Judge Nelson Wolff has announced he will not be running for re-election. Welcome to the show, Your Honor.
Thank you, Randolph.
And I just want to say also thank you for your many years in public service and on the bench. I'm sure you've made a difference in many different ways. And I'd like to ask you well, I understand, first of all, you were born and raised in the Rio Grande Valley, and since that time, what has inspired you to pursue a law degree and be a judge for all the time that you've served, sir?
Yeah, that's a great question, Randolph. You know, I was born and raised down in South Texas, down in McAllen, Texas. Went to McAllen High School, class of '72, and basically my life story, my family story, is that my father was a farmer. And so what my parents taught me, especially my mother and father, was the values of hard work, being honest, and being humble. And that's the value set that has brought me to this point in my career. But there's a story in there, and what creates a drive in me. And this is the story. My dad and my mom and my family are Japanese Americans. And during World War II, my dad was interned in the internment camps. Some people call them concentration camps for the Japanese Americans, because obviously we were at war with Japan, and as a result of Executive Order 9066, President Roosevelt ordered all the Japanese Americans on the West Coast to be interned. And so my father made sure that I knew that story, and as a high school student, he took me to the internment camp in Poston, Arizona, when I was in high school. And my dad and I didn't necessarily get along. He was very conservative. I was probably pretty liberal during that Vietnam War. And he wanted to make sure that I knew that experience and that I understood that experience, and to understand the injustice and inequality, the discrimination from that experience. And what I took away from that was the fact that no, we should never, ever marginalize or disrespect or ignore our constitutional rights. So somehow, some way, I was the oldest, I was the first to go to college, so I had no real mentor to tell me, well, this is what you got to do to be a lawyer, much less a judge. And so basically that fire in me to work hard, to be honest, to be humble, just guided me a path. And so I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Texas, Austin, and graduate with a bachelor's degree in political science. Went to the University of Texas Law School and graduated a doctor of jurisprudence. And then came to the District Attorney's Office in 1980, where I started my legal career in the DA's office. So Randolph, that's kind of what I wanted to share with the public, is that my commitment for the rule of law, my commitment and fidelity to the Constitution of this state and of the United States. That is what every elected official takes an oath to. And so that's what drives me, not only as a judge, but now to step up to be your next county judge, is to make sure that in this country, we live in a very toxic, turbulent world now. And what I think holds us together, the fabric of our society, hinges on the rule of law. And that's what I will bring as a county judge to Bexar County.
My next question, sir. And as an associate judge on January 1st, 1995, you were appointed to the Children's Court bench by unanimous vote through your leadership. Adoption of foster children during that time increased nearly 1,000%, was recognized by Governor Bush, future President Bush, for your model court on the Governor's Committee to Promote Adoption. Can you tell us how that came to be?
Sure. Basically, as I've laid out, I came to the DA's office, and at 27 years old, I was the youngest section chief in charge of the juvenile section of the DA's office. And at that time, all the juvenile prosecutors and the attorney representing Child Protective Services, the abuse and neglect cases, were all under me. And so I had an opportunity to understand the issues of children and families, not only from a juvenile justice, but from the CPS, child abuse and neglect cases. And so from there, I went into a private practice doing court appointment work to represent children and families in our CPS docket. I was fortunate that Judge Tom Rickoff and then Judge Carmen Kelsey, as district court judges, made me what was called an associate judge in the juvenile court, where I heard juvenile cases and those child abuse and neglect cases as an associate judge part-time. Then in 1995, as you pointed out, Judge John Specia and then Judge Andy Morales, who has since passed, asked me to step up to be the CPS judge. They felt that I was the one who had the best credentials. And so, in fact, the story there is I was reluctant because obviously of the financial compensation, but I felt it was my duty, my job, and from my sense of this is how I can make a difference. And so with unanimous support of all the civil district judges, I was appointed to the first CPS court really in the whole state of Texas. And that's where that was with, at that time, Judge Nelson Wolf was county judge, Tracy Wolf was chair of the Hidalgo Foundation. And the Wolves then partnered with me and Judge Specia to create the nationally renowned Children's Court, which is on the third floor of the historic Bexar County Courthouse, one of its kind. And it's been looked upon as a model. I can tell you statewide, nationwide, worldwide, judges and judicial officials, child protective service officials have all come to Bexar County to see the innovation and the creativity and the public-private partnerships. Basically, Tracy Wolf leveraged in that public-private partnership to create the whole third floor. We turned a 1,200 square foot, what we call the closet courtroom, which is what courtroom I worked in, where everybody crowded into a courtroom that probably could only hold 40, 50 people. It was 1,200 square foot with children, parents, all squashed together. And we then moved it into a 12,000 square foot of the entire third floor, which used to be file space for the district clerk. And we made conference rooms, hearing rooms, brought in technology through AT&T grants. Tracy Wolf raised $4 million. And that's where I learned about public-private partnerships. And that's a platform I want to bring to the county. Government can't do it all by itself. And so what we learned is that with innovation, creativity, and basically finding out what we can do for children and families, we've created a national model, and it's something I'm very proud of. It takes innovation, it takes out-of-box thinking, it takes a person that wants to change the system, and I've had to break silos to do that in order to create this nationally renowned court.
Now, you had said, I believe I saw it on your website, I had accomplished the goals that I set out to do, and now I'm ready to run for Bexar County Judge. Mm-hmm. And that certainly is a model, a national model, as you had said previously. What do you see as the greatest challenge as an incoming Bexar County Judge right here, right now?
Right now, we have, obviously, right now, COVID-19 is still a pandemic. It is still wreaking havoc on this community. We've seen great leadership through Judge Wolf, Mayor Nirenberg, and my experience, my wisdom, my strength of character. I've had to make tough decisions, Randolph, as a district court judge. I probably have made decisions that some people don't like or have disagreed with. I've had to make rulings on families of terminating parental rights, which is perhaps the most harshest remedy you can do. I've had to take children away from parents who are unable to care for their children and then tell them at some later point, you can't be a parent anymore. Some of those stories are heartbreaking, Randolph, and those are tough decisions, but that's the type of leadership you have. I owe loyalty and fidelity to the Constitution of this state and the United States, and so I'm always going to rule on the rule of law. And what I think is real crucial at this time in this country, this community, is that you have leadership that understand that the third branch of government, the judiciary, is what has really kept this country going and what has kept, this chaos that has been created by the politicians in Washington, D.C. and in Austin, Texas. We have this really extreme partisanship going on. And that's one thing I did as a judge. You didn't look at me as a Republican judge or a Democratic judge. You just looked at me as a judge who was always fair and just, who always worked hard and always gave dignity and respect to everyone in that courtroom. And that's what I'm going to bring to the Commissioner's Court. I want to create an openness. I want to create a transparency. I want to be able to say, you can trust your county government because we've got great leadership. And I look forward to be your next county judge and work with the county commissioners that are currently on the Commissioner's Court.
Well said, sir. Thank you for that. Now, Bexar County's population has increased 8.1% from 2000 to 2010, while the Alamo City's population during that same time increased twice as fast. But since 2010 to 2020, Bexar County population increased by 17%, and San Antonio population increase went down to a growth of 8.1%, according to the Census Bureau. My question is, what are your plans to harness the amount of growth to maximize and adapt to the overall needs and well-being of the citizens of Bexar County, sir?
Great question, Randolph. Obviously, we're in a growth period. The Bexar County and the city of San Antonio and all the surrounding areas, we're in a vibrant, strong economy in spite of the COVID. And what my platform will focus on is economic development. It's going to focus on education. It's going to focus on infrastructure. But I don't look at those as silos. In fact, that's one of the things I want to have this community understand. Sometimes we got to break these silos. We got to think out of the box. We've got to look perhaps at public-private partnerships. I know sometimes that scares a few people out there, but it's what we're doing right now. We look at the business community. We've got to partner with them. We also have to be sensitive to our communities of color and to all parts of our community. We know that during the COVID, what was one of the biggest issues that hit the education system? We found out that parts of our community, especially in the rural, Wi-Fi was either non-existent or was inadequate. And we had students who had to go looking for Wi-Fi in order to connect to their educational system, their schools. The numbers I'm hearing and researching is that 15% of our kids in our current educational public school system are lost. We're calling them opportunity youth, and the fact that what's happened is we presume they've either dropped out or they're transient and we can't find them. And some of them obviously had to go to work in order to support the family and for whatever various reasons. But what is very troubling is that we now have another group of students who we're going to have to deal with. And if we don't get them back into our public school system or get into workforce programs, then we're going to have to support them either through government assistance. If they get in trouble with the criminal justice system, we're going to pay for the jail, which is a big cost to the county, or we're going to see them in our abuse and neglect cases as they grow and have families and don't have the support and the empowerment, then we're going to pay for it anyway. So it takes business economic sense to understand we've got to focus on education. Now, education is not a county obligation, but I believe the county as a stakeholder has a right to bring people together and to have these discussions. What are we going to do with these opportunity youth? How are we going to get an issue like, not a simple issue, how are we going to create infrastructure like Wi-Fi? We should be able to, that should be a no-brainer. We should be able to bring everybody together, bring the city, bring the county, bring the state, bring the federal, knowing that right now there are tremendous opportunities with the federal monies, the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. And there's monies there to build infrastructure. We have the Biden Build Back Better plan. There are going to be opportunities to deal with infrastructure, but we can't keep it siloed in just particular. We have to understand what we have to do with economic development is we got to continue to be the incubator, so to speak, of economic development. We need to focus on cybersecurity. We need to focus on technology. We need to focus on the new wave of businesses. We want these businesses to relocate and put their corporate headquarters in San Antonio. And we're going to have to then look at some of the multimodal transportation issues, road congestion, the airport issue, all those, not necessarily all county obligations, but the county can take a leadership position, and that's what I want to bring, is the experience, the depth and knowledge that I have acquired. People sometimes say, well, you've just been a judge. But you have to understand, as a judge, I've heard all kinds of cases, contract disputes, ordinance disputes. I've had, many issues that I have had to understand. My CPS, my abuse and neglect docket, I've had to create wraparound services for these families. So I understand about the issues at daycare. I understand the issues about affordable housing. I understand the issues that people don't have lack of access to the workforce. And what we need to do is we've got to bring everybody together. That was the essence of my family drug court and baby court, my early childhood court. I brought all the stakeholders in a round table meeting every 2 weeks. And we would talk about this family. How can we put this child back with this family? But we had to deal with the daycare issues. We had to deal with the housing issues. So affordable housing is a tremendous issue. And it's the reason why people don't realize, but Haven for Hope is full of children and families. A lot of my clients in my drug court and baby court are at Haven for Hope. So we always thought, oh, that's for the chronic homeless that live under the bridge, live in the forest, whatever they live. And unfortunately, we're still dealing with that because that population has some significant mental health issues. And sometimes they just don't want to be connected to the Haven for Hope. And so we're going to have, we've got some challenges, Randolph, for this county. And we're going to have experienced leadership that has wisdom and knowledge to know how to deal with these complex issues. They're big issues.
Well, you answered the question that I was going to ask after this one already, so you just kind of took the words out of my mouth. I appreciate that. That's really good. Thank you, sir, for that answer. Now, as a founder of CCDV, the Collaborative Commission of Domestic Violence, and I believe you have 2 co-chairs in that organization, what progress has been made since its inception, and how would you address these issues as county judge, as founder of the Collaborative Commission of Domestic Violence, CCDV?
Yeah, that's the Collaborative Commission on Domestic Violence. Randolph, what happened is that obviously, I believe 2 years ago, it was before COVID, I believe Congressman Doggett and Lloyd Doggett and Congressman Joaquin Castro had a town hall meeting. And as a result of that town hall meeting, we heard the voices of the victim. And it was quite clear to me as a district court judge that the voice of the victim was not being heard. And that to a certain extent, a lot of victims felt disrespected, they felt marginalized, and that nobody cared about them. And so I felt it was incumbent upon me as a district court judge, a community leader, a change agent, to say, we've got to change that narrative. We've got to make sure that victims feel that they're cared upon and that we're going to move forward in a collaborative way. And so I basically, through the model of my drug court, the model of my baby court, I said, we got to bring everybody together. And that's the strength of the Collaborative Commission. I appointed Judge Monique Diaz. I believe she's the judge of the 150th District Court. And at that time, it was Dr. Colleen Bridger, Deputy City Manager for the City of San Antonio, because I wanted to bring city and county government together. It's been documented that city, county doesn't always do things well together. But I am really proud that the City of San Antonio and Bexar County have. And what the Collaborative Commission has really done in essence is, one, it's bring collaboration. We're sharing information. The federal government, the U.S. Attorney, and the U.S. Marshal's Office are involved. The City of San Antonio, the San Antonio Police Department, the Metro Health Department, University Health System, Center for Healthcare Services are involved. We also have the sheriff. We also have the judges, the criminal judges, civil judges in the courthouse, both at the district court and county court level. We have the district attorney, Joe Gonzalez, and his Family Justice Center. And then we have what I believe is the strength of San Antonio and Bexar County, and that's the nonprofit community. That's the Family Violence Prevention Services led by Marta Pelaez. That's the Peace Initiative led by Patricia Castillo. And what we have, and all the others, Rape Crisis Center, and I know I'm leaving out, I apologize for hey, you forgot us. Bottom line is that we are then focusing on the needs. And I've been real pleased just recently, the county commissioners gave over $3 million to deal with family violence. So we have elevated the conversations. We're giving respect to the victims and perpetrators. And that's the thing I think sometimes people forget. We have to look at the whole family component. We have to make sure victims are heard, but we also have to deal with perpetrators to change their attitudes and beliefs, because the only way you change action and behavior is that you got to change attitudes and beliefs. That is a fundamental tenet that Marta Pelaez for Family Violence Prevention Services has taught me. And so that's the reason why it's not lock them up. It's not put them in jail. It's not like, have them pay fines and whatnot. If anything, we've seen how ineffective that is. And that's on the principles of restorative justice, and that's a whole different issue perhaps we can touch upon in this podcast. And
I understand it is a collaboration of many different agencies. I looked at the website and I saw the heads of these different agencies. CASA was one of them, I believe, and I believe it's doing a good service to the citizens here in Bexar County as far as dealing with helping victims be heard, and also making sure you address the issues of the perpetrators as well, and that's fair to everybody involved. Now, my next question. For the Bexar County taxpayer, how would you address issues of fiscal responsibility with respect to the Bexar County Sheriff's Department Detention Center overtime expenditures? Because those have been authorized by the Commissioner's Court multiple times, because even after a period of time, Judge Wolf had told Sheriff Salazar that retaining deputies would be the key to lowering the tax burden of the electorate, which would boost morale, lower the DWI and domestic violence reports for the jailers and the sworn deputies that are putting their lives on the line during their shifts, which I've seen reported in the local media. What do you think that some type of fiscal responsibility needs to be taken care of as far as taxpayer burden for these expenditures for overtime?
Yeah, Randolph, that's an excellent question, and that really highlights some of the issues of county government. And so I want the public to understand that the sheriff is what we call a constitutional elected official. It's based on the Constitution. We go all the way back to when the state of Texas was first formed and we created a constitution. So he's an elected official. The Commissioner's Court, the county judge and the county commissioners are elected officials. Now, I think what the public needs to understand is the sheriff, by Constitution and statute, is basically it's his responsibility to run the jail in the most efficient way. And it's up to the county commissioners and the county judge to make sure that in allocating the money for him, it's used in the most effective and efficient way. So there should really be a partnership. Now, unfortunately, I think if you watch Commissioner's Court, there's this basically going back and forth between the commissioners and the sheriff. And there's obviously either a lack of communication or a lack of coordination and collaboration. And I'm not faulting anybody. I think people are very frustrated that the issue hasn't been resolved. But I can tell you, having worked as a district court judge, working budgets, and that's one thing people don't recognize. I have worked budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets for children's court as the administrative judge. I was local administrative judge for all the district courts. So I've had to go one-on-one with the Commissioner's Court and argue that they need to properly fund the judiciary in order for us to be effective and efficient. Unfortunately, sometimes bureaucracies can be penny wise and pound foolish, which means they'll cut for the sake of cut and find out we've got to pay more money in the end result. Now, the overtime issue, quite frankly, needs to be studied. I understand there are consultants, and there was even a disagreement and dispute over consultants. And so, to be real blunt, again, I don't fault anybody. I believe the sheriff should be allowed by Constitution to run his jail and to be as effective and efficient. And obviously, the overtime cost is a deal budget buster, and we need to figure that out. And the county commissioners and the county judge have a right to ask tough questions of the sheriff to make sure that he is being most efficient. Now, what we understand, and this is something as a judge I understand, COVID has shut down the criminal justice system for the most part. We don't have we just started jury trials back up, and they're still limited. And what people don't understand is without the right to a jury trial, which I'm committed to do as county judge, our justice system is stuck. And what that means is that jail stays over capacity. And we can't move people out because, unfortunately, people don't take care of their cases, resolve their cases, typically through settlement negotiations, to what they call plea bargains, and basically be able to move on. And so you got a jail that's overcapacity. You've got a sheriff that's trying to do the best he can. We've got COVID that's having the deputies and employees sick. And obviously there are minimum jail standards that require that the jail be staffed at adequate levels. Now we also know that the deputies are not on pay on the same level with the San Antonio Police Department. Now I don't think the deputies will ever get to that, but that's an issue I'm willing to look at. That is a tough issue, but I think that's an issue. How can we increase the benefits? How can we increase the pay? How can we increase the incentives for people to work at the jail? Because I'll be real blunt, I've talked to the deputies that worked in the court as security, and they said, Judge, that's not a good place to work. It's tough, and you don't get paid a lot, and you don't get respect, and it is a dangerous job. And so this work environment, we really do have to study. Are we going to have to look at compensation? Is that the long-term resolution? Is it better benefits? Is it a better rearranging of management? And I am willing to look at all the options. There are no sacred cows, and that's one thing. At this point in life, as I come over, as 26 years being in the district court system and now stepping up to be your next county judge, I ain't afraid of anything. And so I may have to step on some toes. I may have to poke some sacred cows. I may have to tell the sheriff, you know, we got to do things in a better way. I have an excellent relationship with Javier Salazar, and I'm confident that I can sit so that we don't use commissioners' court meeting to be arguing in front of the public and then having the public go, why can't those people find solutions? Because arguments and disputes don't do anything except frustrate the people. People get very frustrated when we don't have solutions. And that's what I will bring to the table. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. And so I'm not going to tell you, oh, I have the answer, I can fix it. No. I'm going to have to bring all the stakeholders. I got to bring the experts. If we got consultants that I believe have been retained to study this issue, then let's then look at the solutions and then, again, break the silos, break the bureaucracies, ask the sheriff or ask us as a county, can we do things different?
And thank you for that answer, Judge. I really appreciate that. A little while back, I had talked to Brooks County Sheriff Benny Martinez, and he had told me, this was on a separate issue, but in contrast, he asked me about Sheriff Salazar. And I told him, because he had mentioned that Bexar County has become so overcrowded in the detention center that they outsource to other counties, and our county pays all those counties. He's making money off of Bexar County as we speak. And if we could kind of bring that into perspective as to how we can keep our inmates properly jailed, up to standard, not overcrowded. I understand there is a COVID-19 pandemic going on, but he had made mention that it's not just my county, it's multiple counties that Bexar County is sending inmates to. And I'm hoping that Sheriff Salazar will bring that to the Commissioner's Court, and then maybe it can be addressed collaboratively and for the benefit of the Bexar County taxpayer, because we're now just paying other counties to house our inmates. And so that was a good point that you made, sir, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, let me follow up. That's the reason why it's going to take an experienced leader, because you got to understand how the justice system, the court system, is interrelated and directly affects the jail population. So, you know, if I had the judges there going, we don't have anything to do, obviously they got things to do, but we've got to get the jury system back on. And that's something I know I can do right off the bat. I have a great relationship with Judge Ron Ronhell, who was our just rolled off the local administrative judge position, and now the newest local administrative judge is Judge Rosie Alvarado. And so obviously as senior judge of the district court judges, I will have an excellent relationship with the judges and basically ask the judge to step up. Let's work a little harder. Let's work a little smarter. Let's move these cases. We've got to move cases in order to deal with that jail population. So I want to be fair to Sheriff Salazar. It's not just, okay, fix it, Sheriff, when he's going, well, I've got all these criminals or people that are accused of crime that obviously they're in there because they're perhaps a danger to the community or to themselves, and we can't let them go. The community demands public safety. And that's the other thing. I can't compromise public safety. That's the rule of law. That's something I'm not going to go, okay, let's just give everybody a PR bond, a personal reconnaissance bond, and let them out. I think there's been other metropolitan areas that have used that strategy. I understand Houston, and there is tremendous criticism of people who are released and then reoffend. That's not fair to the community. That's not right. And that's the reason why it has to be a measured, balanced approach. And it's going to take experienced leadership to do that.
The recidivism rate is kind of high, and this is usually the result of repeat offenders.
That's right.
And that's an issue that needs to be addressed. And hopefully as county judge we can do that. As you being county judge, rather. I'm sorry. Sure. My next question, and this I think is a very fair question, and I believe I've been asked to ask this question by a potential constituent. I would like to ask you, as Bexar County Judge, would you be open to amending the county charter to change the Bexar County Elections Administrator position to an elected office instead of a lifetime appointed position, which would in turn gain the favor of voters' confidence in our elections for such an important and powerful position? What are your thoughts on that, sir?
All right, that's a question of first impression. Nobody's ever asked that question. I will tell you, under our current administration, the elections department is run by a county department. And so there are certain things that would require statutory change first. So it's not a matter of changing, there is no county charter. So you would have to change this, put a law in, and so it'd be up to the legislature. And so you understand that it might even have to be a constitutional type process, which makes it very difficult to change, because we don't want to change issues that deal with constitutional issues. But I will tell you, I will consider, and that's my pledge. My pledge is to look at everything and to be transparent and open. And if there is an issue with the elections department, then I need to know what those issues are. I personally know the current administrator, Jackie Callanan. I, at this point, have never had a problem with Jackie. She's been responsive. She appears to run elections. Now, there have been glitches, but I don't believe because of her or her employees. It's just the nature, the COVID situation. Sometimes the ballot boxes don't always are working. There are always glitches in some elections. And so, but the bottom line is this. My pledge to answer that question is yes. I'm willing to look to see if it needs to be an elected official. But I will tell you, the drawback to being an elected official is you're bringing politics, you're bringing money, you're bringing influence to a position that I don't want to be subject to that. That's a line I'm going to draw. Sure, I'll support an elected official, but are we going to keep money, politics, and influence out of that position? Because if we can't, I'm going to tell you, people with money, people with influence are going to control the elections. And so that's the reason why I will draw a line and say, no, if that's what it's going to create, I can't support that. But I think what we can look at is, what are the criticisms? Can the elections administrator do a better job? And is it a matter of looking at and asking that Jackie do a better job? And I'll be honest with you, there's no doubt in my mind, with the integrity and her character, she'll do that. But she needs to be evaluated. And that, now, I don't know that for sure, but perhaps that's what perhaps is really being asked for. Is she being evaluated? Is she getting feedback? Is she being told these are the problems that the public or individuals are having with the elections department? And are you addressing those issues? So there's that old, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is, okay, we got a problem, but let's not make a bigger problem by creating issues, as I indicated earlier. I do not want that electoral influence of money and power by certain individuals to have power over that department.
That's fair to say, sir. She has been in that position since 2005, about 17 years now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have been asking questions, should that be a long-term appointment to that level? And your answer on how you elaborated on that will give people an opportunity to think and appreciate that you would have an open mind to this. And in closing, sir, I would like you to talk directly into the camera, and I want to ask you, what is your direct message to the Republican and independent voters of Bexar County who are undecided at this time, sir?
Great question, Randolph. What I want to say to every voter in Bexar County, Democrat, Republican, Independent, conservative, liberal, moderate, I believe that this election is about leadership and who is the best leader for Bexar County. We know that Judge Wolf has served admirably for the last 20 years and he's stepping down. And so this next phase of county government demands that we have experienced leadership. We need leaders that understand the issues. We need leaders that know how to bring people together. We need leaders with a proven record. We need leaders that are going to be innovative and out-of-box thinkers and game changers. We need leadership that is going to break silos and deal with, and you've raised some excellent questions today that I had not thought of. And that is, we need to look at all parts of county government and how can we make it better. I have a proven track record as a district court judge that I've sat for nearly 26 years. You know what? There's a statement out there, it's like, well, there's three good candidates out there, but only one has the record, the experience, and the resume. And more importantly, I believe that I have been recognized for my character and reputation. I'm a straight shooter, and I would hope that that's what any Republican, independent would ask for, even of the other party. Somebody, and I know that I have a tremendous support and recognition and respect from my Republican friends and supporters. I will have Republicans crossing over to support me in this race. And that has happened in the previous races as district court judge. I've been one of the highest vote getters in this county. And that's because I believe that I have the name recognition and the recognition of the respect of all the voters of the Bexar County. And I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your vote, because this is going to be one of the most important elections for Bexar County in this cycle. Thank you.
Once again, this is Randolph Macias of the Uncensored Voice with the Honorable Peter Sakai. I want to thank you for your time, sir, and wish blessings to you and yours. And let's see what happens in our upcoming elections. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to make sure that the Bexar County electorate is well informed of all candidates involved in this race, which is very important, sir. So thank you for your time. May God bless America and the great state of Texas.
Same here. God bless.